did not have a name. It didn't know what one was. It was raised by the creatures of the woodlands who devoured its dying mother. Its instincts, however, fought against the unnatural environment. Though they might raise it, it never truly acted like them and could never belong. And so it grew, fighting against the inborn to try to fit in with those it never could. One day, as it went to find water, it wandered off farther than it had been before, and then it saw him. He looked similar to it. It looked down and realized it looked the same as him. It had found another of its kind which could perhaps finally accept it. It started following him, popping up more and more frequently as they rapidly learned the way he acted, spoke, dressed, and more, its instincts pushing it ever closer to where they said it belonged. But not all that was planned could come to fruition. There was an obstacle in observation. The parent of the boy it had learned was referred to as Owen. It was bothersome. They kept attempting to get away from it, bringing Owen with them, but it was only a minor inconvenience. Then, one day, they took Owen to an alleyway, hid him, and charged at it, a broken metal pipe in hand. They wanted it gone. It needed to continue watching, and so they were quickly taken down and disposed of. But what of Owen? How would it observe him now? An idea struck its mind, and it grabbed a handful of the parent's blood and wrote on the wall the first word it had learned, the one that felt the easiest to comprehend. Run. And Owen did. It followed. As it spent more time watching Owen, the more pronounced its instincts became, allowing them to blend into society despite its upbringing. It took on the guises of those Owen interacted with, figuring it would make him happy to see its progress. And it did. Owen studied, helping it learn things it had never known about before. Their overpowering want and primal urges let it learn faster than it took in the information. But as time went by, Owen kept living his life, occasionally researching a bit more, but his progress had mostly stopped. It was confused. Why had Owen stopped? Regardless, it kept watching, kept learning. And one day, Owen paused. It paused too. Why? It was a simple question, really. It had answered many of them as it had learned to adapt. But somehow, the answer to this one seemed distant and out of reach. As fog rolled in, it struggled to comprehend why it felt so uneasy about the question. Why? A single word. It knew many words, but this one alone perplexed it. As it was about to come to an answer, its thoughts were halted by a gaze. It froze. It had always been the one watching. It had never been the one being watched. Its skin prickled with an uncomfortable feeling that told them that it couldn't run from this gaze, as Owen and his mother once had. This was an existence beyond it. The thought jerked them back. Owen. The answer. It could answer the question. But their consciousness faded with the fog, along with an imprint of pure mental will forced upon its mind in agony. Witness their demise. When next it woke, it could no longer control itself. The witness now could only watch its body kill, kill, and kill. And when it was finally Owen's turn, a solitary tear dropped from its eye. Owen Pierce was born to a single mother, being abandoned by his father before he had even come into the world. Although difficult as a single parent, his mother was determined to give Owen the life she could not have herself. She worked multiple jobs, whatever would take her, moved when possible to places where Owen had ever more opportunities for his future, and did everything she could to ensure Owen grew up safe and loved. Which is why she noticed it before anything else. It was only occasionally, at first, a figure across the street. just beyond the fence, staring through their windows. A stranger who appeared more and more often. The strangest thing was that she couldn't define any one thing about it, besides that it was decidedly inhuman. Every time she saw it, it changed, and yet she still knew it was the same person. No, the same thing. Owen never noticed. She would make sure he didn't. Nothing would distract her son from the life he should live. As the years passed, the figure only grew ever more omnipresent, as did her obsession with keeping it away. She cut contact with friends and family, abandoned jobs without warning, and changed towns in the middle of the night. Yet it still was there. She connected with police, private investigators, and anyone else who would listen. Most dismissed her story as mere paranoia. Those who humored her were unable to agree on what they saw. Photos were equally useless. In every one she had, the figure was still there, but never twice the same. She eventually came to a realization that chilled her skin and soul. It wasn't following her. It was following Owen. Years of fear and panic became desperation in moments. One night, after another move with the figure no farther than before, she took Owen's hand and led him into an abandoned alleyway. She sat him down, leaning against a wall, and covered him in a weathered tarp. Be quiet, no matter what. Owen, ever the obedient child, did so. It would be the last time he ever saw her. He heard her hesitant footsteps, a grunt of effort as something heavy was lifted, and a step, and another, accelerating, going faster and faster. And then began the screams. Some sounded real, others imagined. They blended together until he could no longer tell the difference. When silence finally prevailed, it took Owen a moment to gather the courage to lift the tarp. His mother was gone, but on the wall opposite there was a message written in fresh crimson blood. Run. Owen did. For years he thought of the message as a warning. Only long after did he start wondering if it had been an instruction instead. He was aware of it now, a constant presence that he could almost point to, and it knew that he knew. It began appearing in the everyday, posing as people he'd seen, copying their speech, mannerisms, and appearance with an uncanny clarity, as if taunting him. He used the lessons his mother never meant him to learn, but had anyway. He kept to himself, moved constantly, never becoming too attached to any place or person. But the fear of that night would never leave him, or the presence he could always feel. The older he became, the more unsettling it became. It was changing, perhaps learning. At the start, he could remember it standing motionless for hours on end. As a teen, it blended with crowds. By the time he was an adult, he could no longer notice it. It walked among them, spoke with them, laughed with them. No one else ever noticed. Determined to understand this nightmare, Owen devoted himself to studying psychology. If he could understand people, he might understand the thing that was so obsessed with them. But it was futile. The more he learned, the faster it grew. The more he studied body language, the more natural its movements became. The more he studied emotion, the better its expressions would become. Every breakthrough was met with evolution. At times, he felt like he was teaching it. Years passed. He earned his degree, settled down, tried to live normally. The presence faded. But it hadn't vanished. He knew it didn't. It had simply gotten harder to recognize. On the evening of his 27th birthday, Owen found himself standing among a sea of strangers on a crowded street. For the first time in years, he stopped. He could no longer feel its presence, but it was there all the same. The question rose from his throat, unbidden. Why? A second passed. Then another. A black fog began creeping in, obscuring the crowd around him. He was no longer afraid, simply exhausted. A lifetime of searching had proved nothing. He was no closer to anything than he was that day in the alley. There was no answer, simply silence. As the world faded around him, he felt a gaze settle upon him. Not the familiar one he had known throughout his life. This was older, greater. For the first time in decades, Owen believed he might finally receive an answer. The fog took him before he could ask another question. Keep running. Some lessons take years of experience to learn. You know that others take mere moments. After being in chase for a total of 60 seconds, Keep Running activates. After escaping a chase you were injured in, you recover from negative status effects 100% faster for 60 seconds, after which this perk deactivates. It was what should have been my mother's final words, taken from her blood and twisted through its form. Owen Pierce. Perilous study. The feeling of death around every corner motivates you to learn the ways of your enemy. While in chase, looking directly at the killer causes perilous study to gain 1 token per second, up to a maximum of 20 tokens. Outside of chase, perilous study loses 2 tokens per second. Press the secondary ability button while perilous study has at least 1 token to consume all tokens and reveal the killer's aura for 0.25 seconds per token consumed. Perilous study has a cooldown of 15 seconds. What better place to learn than the eye of the storm? Owen Pierce. One of the many. There is comfort in numbers, but you've always cared more about the twisted kind of safety it provided. While within 8 meters of another survivor, your aura and the aura of that survivor cannot be revealed to the killer until one of you leaves the range. It was a bad thought, but I still had it every now and then. If I could, would I wish this pain on someone else to free myself from the suffering? Owen Pierce. Familiar stranger. You feel drawn to your chosen victim by overwhelming instinct, despite having never seen them. Once you chase the obsession for the first time, they suffer from exposed until the chase ends. This lingers for 10 seconds after the chase ends, and refreshes if you re-enter chase. After this effect ends, or if the obsession changes, this perk deactivates for the rest of the trial. I don't recall when it started, but I certainly knew that it never ended. Entry number 1000, The Journal of a Witness. Ritual, supernatural observation. You do not need to be everywhere to have knowledge. You simply need to know where to look. After hooking a survivor, a rift manifests on the farthest completed generator. If no generators have been completed, it instead manifests on the farthest incomplete generator. Interact with the rift for 3 seconds to shift for up to 30 seconds. While shifting, you may place an anomaly with a 20-meter radius at your current location. Upon placing an anomaly, or when shifting ends, you immediately return to the location where you began shifting. Survivors may interact with the rift for 8 seconds to close it, removing the anomaly. Only one anomaly can exist at a time. While inside an anomaly, survivors' pools of blood and scratch marks last 50% longer, grunts of pain are 50% louder, and their auras are revealed for 2 seconds longer. Watching changes nothing. Being watched changes ever. Entry number 83, The Journal of a Witness. Unnatural adaptation. You make many attempts, and not all succeed, but for every failure, you get stronger. While in chase, mark every pallet and window location that you or the survivor you are chasing pass through. Once the chase ends, block all upright pallets and windows in those locations for all survivors for 60 seconds. Cooldown 60 seconds. It had already been rejected once. It would ensure that it didn't happen again. Entry number 357, The Journal of a Witness. The All-Seeing. The witness has always wanted to fit in and belong. Now, those instincts have turned towards predatory intent. The witness passively gains knowledge from survivors within a 24-meter radius and gains 1.5 times as much knowledge from the obsession. Knowledge gained progresses one of 3 talents with different rates of gain. Survivors who are doing the following actions generate knowledge for the witness when in the radius and to the corresponding talent. Progression. Repairing generators grants 1 charge per second. Cleansing and blessing totems grants 1.5 charges per second. Opening exit gates grants 2 charges per second. Unlocking chests grants 0.5 charge per second. Preservation. Healing grants 2.5 charges per second. Unhooking grants 10 charges. Taking protection hits grants 5 charges. Pursuit. Dropping pallets grants 5 charges. Vaulting obstacles grants 2 charges. Stuns grant 3 charges. The witness can enter and exit observation mode with a 1-second animation, and while in observation mode, the witness is undetectable, cannot move, and no longer gains knowledge from actions in the radius, but now gains doubled knowledge from actions within its line of sight. After the witness reaches 20, 50, and 100 charges in a talent, knowledge progression for that talent stops, and the witness can choose to receive a permanent bonus based on the talent, upgrading that talent's tier. The witness may only upgrade talents 3 times in a trial. The bonus received depends on the talent chosen and the tier gained. Progression. Tier 1. Generator repair sounds can be heard from 6 meters farther away for every survivor repairing the generator. Tier 2. After survivors are no longer repairing a generator, a visual cue plays on that generator that only the witness can see that stops after 10 seconds. Tier 3. Survivors can no longer see the progress of non-completed generators and exit gate switches. Preservation. Tier 1. Freshly healed survivors continue creating pools of blood and grunts of pain for 10 seconds after being healed. Tier 2. Injured survivors scream every 20 seconds if they are not being healed without notifying the witness. Tier 3. When a survivor enters a 24-meter range of another survivor, they can't heal or unhook that survivor for 15 seconds. This resets if they exit and re-enter the range. Pursuit. Tier 1. Survivors can no longer see the auras of pallets, windows, or breakable walls while in chase. Tier 2. Survivors' auras are revealed for 0.5 seconds after dropping a pallet or vaulting. Tier 3. The entity also blocks pallets used consecutively in chases, and not just windows. Broken glasses. They are no longer of any help to the sight impaired, but the impression is still valuable. The passive observation radius is increased by 6 meters. Halted stopwatch. A useless trinket that used to track the moments they could never keep. Decreases the time to enter and exit observation mode by 0.2 seconds. Child's name tag. It originally meant little. As it learned, it was deemed a possession of utmost importance. You now gain doubled knowledge from the obsession instead of 1.5 times. Psychology 101. A book it had seen often, the pages worn by hands not its own. Gain 10% more knowledge from all sources. Faded theater mask. The audience was no longer watching, yet still the act carried on. Remain undetectable for 10 seconds after leaving observation mode. Jagged pipe, an improvised weapon that never landed a blow. After gaining a talent, your lunge is 50% longer for 30 seconds. Shining wristwatch. They carried their time with them, as if they were afraid of losing it. Decreases the time to enter and exit observation mode by 0.3 seconds. Dirty tarp. Sometimes the illusion of being safe is better than the reality. Downing a survivor reveals the obsession's aura for 2 seconds. Old photograph. Appearances changed over time. Habits did not. After you gain 30 points of knowledge from a survivor, their grunts of pain are 50% louder, and their scratch marks last 20% longer. House key. It always knew where I was and how to get to me. Entry number 94, the Journal of a Witness. After gaining a new talent, reveal the auras of all survivors for 5 seconds. Reflective mirror. Even when I hid away, it could still see me. I could be trapped in a box, and it would still see me. Entry number 771, the Journal of a Witness. While in observation mode, your passive observation radius is increased by 12 meters, but you no longer gain knowledge from survivors within your line of sight. Torn instruction manual. The steps were there, but the result was not. It did not understand. Until you have acquired all available talents, your basic attack recovery speed is increased by 15%. Wind-up toy. It only moved when wound. That mistake would not be repeated. Whenever you gain knowledge while in observation mode, gain 10% haste for 3 seconds after exiting it. Clock tower. Their time was there, but despite their fears, much of it was wasted. Gaining a talent grants 10 charges towards the next talent in that tree. Burnt instruction manual. It forgot what it knew and learned it again, faster, better. You may forget a learned talent at any time, but your charges for that talent are reset to the next lowest tier, and to 0 if it was a tier 1 talent. Modified chart. Everything had a number. Panic ensued when the numbers were no longer there. Preservation's tier 3 talent also prevents survivors from seeing hook stage progression. Redacted blueprint. People were more dangerous when they knew what to do. Removing that information proved effective. Progression's tier 3 talent also prevents survivors from seeing the auras of generators and exit gates. Carpenter's hammer. Humans built walls, doors, obstacles. They built things that could be broken. Pursuit's tier 3 talent also breaks pallets after the blocking ends. Streaks of blood. A single word. A ruined psyche. Until you have acquired all available talents, you move at 4.4 meters per second and are undetectable. After acquiring all available talents, you move at 4.8 meters per second, and your terror radius increases by 24 meters. Handmade journal. We are both the witness and the witnessed. Entry number 1, the Journal of a Witness. You can select up to 4 talents. Knowledge gain rate is reduced by 50%. Thank you all for listening. This has been Void of Death, the Lich Unbound. May you all have a wonderful and happy day, and spread that happiness to others, until we meet at the doors of Unlife Corp.